This presentation looks at a researched argument and the components of that argument. Particularly, we're going to look at the claims, reasons, and evidence used to support a researched argument. As with other videos, to continue to the next slide, click the Continue button when you are ready to move on. An argument contains 5 parts: the claim of the argument, the reasons supporting the claim, evidence proving your reasons to be true, acknowledgments of other positions regarding the argument. We might say looking at other sides of the argument. And then finally, warrants, which are the underlying principles that your evidence and claims rest upon. This is taken from the Craft of Research. We're not going to talk a lot today about acknowledgments and warrants, and so I would send you back into the Craft of Research for those 2 principles. However, today we're going to focus on the first 3 elements of the argument because they have a great significance on the success of a persuasive argument. Although it reads a bit like a riddle, this question, how is a research paper like Greek architecture, isn't really meant to stump you. Instead, I want you to think of it as a metaphor as we're composing and constructing, building this research paper. This graphic shows why architecture offers an effective metaphor for an argumentative research paper. First, think of the major claim, the paper's thesis, as the roof of our building. The roof is the overarching connection between all the components of a building. It ties every part of the building together. The major claim in an argument functions the same way. It gives a purpose for all of the other elements in your paper. But a roof can't stand alone, so we have pillars. The pillars are the support for the building. These are the support for your argument. Think of the pillars as the reasons why your argument is true, or the reasons why your claim should stand. Finally, we get to the foundation of the building. Pillars must have a strong base. Similarly, reasons for a claim must be based on strong evidence. Now we're going to look at how each of these components work individually and then how they come together to form the research paper. Every paper should have a claim. While you probably won't use this exact wording, it might help you to think, I claim X about my topic when you're working out that initial claim. A claim is your position on the specific topic. For example, BYU Idaho students should be allowed to wear shorts to class, and BYU Idaho students should not be allowed to wear shorts to class. These are 2 different claims about the same topic. They offer 2 very different positions about shorts in the classroom. Now, in order for you to have an argumentative paper, you need to have a claim with a very specific position, and that position must be debatable, meaning that there are differing opinions about that position. Debatable can be looked at in 2 different ways. First, there might be a question about the facts of the issue. Let's go back to the shorts topic. What if I changed my statement to say BYU Idaho students are not allowed to wear shorts to class? Well, this is a position about the topic. It's an attitude about that topic, but it's not debatable. Think about this. If a person argued, well, yeah, students can wear shorts to class, you might wonder if that person had ever heard of the dress code or ever read it. It's a fact that shorts are not allowed in the classroom. Therefore, this claim is not debatable. However, just because the facts of the claim are not debatable doesn't mean that there isn't a debate on the topic itself, so you might have to go back and reframe that claim. This takes us to the second definition of debatable. Do people have different opinions about the topic? Again, coming back to shorts, should we be allowed to or shouldn't we be allowed to? So the debate regarding shorts is not one of facts, it's one around whether or not this should continue. You must be careful to frame your claim in such a way that it requires persuasion, that there is a debate over the facts or a debate over the status of the facts. So a claim is your position about the topic. It must be debatable. I've said that several times now, but those 2 things are very important. It also offers a purpose for your paper. You are attempting to persuade your audience that your position is the best position on this topic. Okay, I'm going to leave this the shorts debate for now. I don't want to get in trouble with the administration, and since this is an online class, I can't tell whether you're wearing shorts or not. So let's look at a different claim. Here's a working thesis for an argumentative research paper. Take a minute, read through the thesis, and identify the claim or claims in this thesis. Write them down on a piece of paper just to help you make sure that you've really picked out the claims. And when you're ready, move on to the next slide. How'd you do? This thesis really has two major claims. I've pulled them out of the thesis and adjusted the language just a bit so that they're grammatically correct sentences. A longer paper may have more than just one claim. Just make sure that your claims relate to one another and that this relationship is very clear to your readers. As mentioned, the claim gives purpose to your research paper. My purpose for this paper is to prove that these two statements are true. Once you've identified your claims, go back to the Craft of Research chapter on making claims. This is chapter 8. And then ask two questions. Is the claim narrow enough for the length of the paper? And is the claim significant? Is it worth your reader's time in getting an answer to that claim? Evaluating the claims of your paper now will strengthen your paper in the end. Once you have your claims, then you start asking yourself, well, what are the reasons why my claim is true? And we'll discuss reasons next. To return to our building metaphor, reasons are the pillars that support your claim. In other words, your reasons show why the claim is true. It is important to realize that reasons are also claims, meaning they are positions that you are taking about the topic. They will probably be debatable as well. Another way to think about reasons is to think of them as the section or paragraph thesis statements. Just as you need a thesis that gives purpose to your paper, you also need a purpose for each section or each paragraph in your paper. This purpose is the reason for that section. Now, I really like this idea of a section thesis or a paragraph thesis because now I'm not writing a 10-page or 12-page or 20-page research paper. I'm proving the thesis of one paragraph. I'm proving the thesis of one paragraph or one section, and then I'm moving on to the next section, to the next paragraph. Okay, let's go back to my thesis and look at the reasons that support this thesis. Again, my thesis has two claims, but I'm just going to focus on the first. We see changing values in Western films since 9/11. Now I have to support this claim by giving reasons as to why this claim is true. And here are three that I think are valid. Notice that my reasons move from broad to narrow. I move from films in general to Western films to Westerns after 9/11. It's important to ask yourself, what does my audience need to believe first? Well, if my audience doesn't believe that films reflect social values, then they won't believe me when I get to reason 3. And so I shouldn't start with reason 3. I need to lay that foundation. As you select the reasons to support your claim, always ask yourself, what does my audience need to know or we need to accept first? The next part of the building is the foundation. Here is where our building metaphor breaks down. When constructing a building, you obviously start with the foundation and work up to the roof. But an argument works from the top down. If you don't know what claims you are making and you don't know what your reasons for these claims are, you really won't know what evidence you need. Okay, yes, you can start a research paper by just selecting a general topic and then going to a database or going to Google or Google Scholar to find books and articles. But you'll waste a lot of time that way. More importantly, your ideas will get lost. Instead, you'll end up with a research paper that's just a bunch of quotes strung together that may or may not relate to your paper. Instead, you want carefully chosen evidence that supports the reasons you have identified. Again, have a purpose to your research. Once you've picked your reason, just don't go out there and say, okay, now I need quotes. How do you know when you need a piece of evidence? Well, some writers might think, I haven't put in a quote for a while, I better throw one in. Try something else. The Craft of Research tells us that you should have a specific purpose for each piece of evidence. I've listed the different uses for evidence outlined in our reading here. Look at the reasons that I've listed. Okay, what kind of evidence do I need to support this reason? Do I need to define my terms? Do I need to define film, social values, or beliefs? Am I comparing or contrasting in this specific reason? Take a few minutes and decide which two types of evidence would best support this reason. Write these types of evidence on a piece of paper and then move on to the next slide. Looking at the reason that I have listed here, I decided that I really need expert opinion and examples to support that reason or to support my conclusions. How did I make this decision? Well, first I looked at what I didn't need. I didn't need to define value or film. I think most readers will understand these terms. I'm not comparing or contrasting in this specific section, so I don't need criteria for comparison. I'm not addressing a problem or a need at this point. Once I've decided the type of evidence I don't need, then I look at the type of evidence I do. And from there, I go to my research. Instead of just randomly looking for articles, I'm looking for very specific evidence. I'm looking for very specific articles. The nice thing about a reason statement is that gives me my search terms. Using films and beliefs, I typed those into JSTOR, and I found a great article in just a few minutes. I want to again emphasize this isn't just about saving time. More importantly, is about finding the best evidence to support your reasons. It's also important to realize that your claims and your reasons fall under the category of a working thesis. Use your claims and reasons to get started, but be open to changing your mind. As you find evidence to support your ideas, you may change your thinking about the topic. This doesn't mean that you change your topic, just that you might discover some of your reasons aren't valid, or you'll find a more important reason for your claim. That's the best part about research, discovering and reshaping what you think as you work towards your argument. Returning to the architecture metaphor, I could have selected any building for this comparison. I specifically selected an ancient Greek building because it illustrates one of our goals in writing, standing the test of time. Why has the Parthenon lasted for over 2,500 years? Because it had a solid foundation, strong pillars to support the structure. The same should be your goal in writing. Find a strong claim, find effective reasons, and then find powerful evidence to support your argument.